The Morrison government has many difficult issues through which it must navigate. On most, and there are very able people in the government, on most, they're giving it a fair crack. The trouble is the biggest issues can most probably only be solved with massive outlays of money. It's an axiom that we can only claim to be a civilised society if we look after those in genuine need and provide dignity to the elderly, which brings us to aged care. The current predicament would challenge the very best of governments. There are two components, residential aged care, but then many Australians would prefer home care. Both, sadly, are hopelessly underfunded. We've had a Royal Commission. There were 148 recommendations. The Royal Commission found, quote, substandard care and abuse pervading the Australian aged care system, unquote. It found 1 in 3 aged care residents had suffered substandard care, 1 in 5 had been assaulted, which prompted the Royal Commission to state, quote, this is a disgrace and should be a source of national shame. Older people receiving aged care should be safe and free from abuse at all times. There's a clear overuse of physical and chemical restraint in residential aged care, unquote. God. The Royal Commission found the system is, quote, understaffed and the workforce, quote, underpaid and undertrained. It found, quote, so many aged care providers don't seem to have the skills and capacity required to care adequately for people living with dementia. It also found, quote, residential aged care is often a person's final place of residence before they die. People at the end of their lives should be treated with care and respect. Their pain must be minimised, their dignity maintained and their wishes respected. The Royal Commission found that many nursing home residents were malnourished and left to sit in their faeces like babies because staff were too busy to take them to the toilet. One of the key recommendations of the Royal Commission was that people be allowed to stay in their homes longer and receive care there if they choose, rather than moving into a residential facility. But the Royal Commission found that in 2019, almost 30,000 older Australians died or were forced into an aged care home waiting for an approved home care package. These are taxpayer funded and designed to help older Australians stay in their homes. But the waiting list is so long that thousands of people are dying or being forced into nursing homes before they see any money. The Royal Commission found that more than 44 seniors a day, over 16,000 a year, died waiting for their home care package. The government said all along the budget would provide, quote, a comprehensive response. Well, let's see what we can make of it. Ian Henschke is the Chief Advocate for the National Seniors Association, and Gerard Hayes is the Secretary of the Health Services Union, and the bulk of these aged care workers, overworked and underpaid, are members of his union. Thank you, gentlemen, both of you, for your time. Ian Henschke, to you first. $17.7 billion over 5 years. Is it clear to you where this money will be spent, and will this address the crisis?
Look, about a third of it will go into home care packages, but the sad thing, Alan, is that when we drill down into those numbers, we're going to get 40,000 packages for home care this year, 40,000 next year, and we've got about 100,000 people waiting. So it won't do what the Royal Commission said, which was to fix the home care wait list, and it described it as being cruel and inhumane. Now, one can only hope that the government plans on releasing more money next year or in the run-up to the election to fix that problem, because, as I often remind you, Alan, the Royal Commission was called by Scott Morrison. He said that he would restore faith in the aged care system. Now, if you restore 80% of home care when you've got 100% in the problem, have you restored faith?
That's a very valid point.
That's the issue.
I mean, the home care wait list is nearly 100,000, and this is only going to deal with 40,000 in this financial year. Gerard Hayes, the Royal Commission found more than 44 seniors a day and over 16,000 a year died waiting for a home care package. As I just said, the budget provides for 80,000, but that's over the next 2 years, and there's already a waiting list of over 80,000, and in 2021, there'll only be 40,000 more home care packages and another 40,000 in 2022. Is this a comprehensive response?
Not at all, Alan. We're seeing an ageing population. This was an opportunity to get it right, not only now but for the future. Our own modelling shows that $5 billion per year over the next 4 years is required, but our modelling doesn't include home care. Our modelling only included residential aged care. So clearly, on the figures alone, would suggest that it is incapable of keeping up with home care and also aged care.
Yeah, is that, Ian, is that you? Those are interesting figures, aren't they? That is exactly what the home care people tell me, that the residential care would require about 20 billion, and that's over 4 years. This package is over 5. How do you... It doesn't matter, it doesn't mix, does it?
Well, no, and look, I will say, and it's important to say this, that this, as they've pointed out, is the largest amount of money that's been put into aged care. But that's because they're playing a huge catch-up. Yeah. So what we hope this is the first step of a number of steps that will improve things. I mean, for example, on the positive side, and Gerard would comment on this, that they actually did say that they want to have a nurse in an aged care home 16 hours a day.
I know,
now, the Royal Commission said it should be... The Royal Commission said it should be 24 hours a day. So it's almost like they're going 3/4 of the way there, or 80% there, but not going
Ian,
the full
where's
step.
the money? Where's the money in this package? Gerard, these are your people. Where's the money in this package to improve the quality of pay for these people? I mean, aged care's providers aren't doing anything other than their best, but they're facing significant operating losses.
They are, and indeed we've seen LASA, a peak body, yesterday say that there won't be any wage increase for at least 2 years. Yeah. The modelling that we did with $20 billion over 4 years not only would deliver a 25% pay increase, it would give 59,000 extra jobs, and it would also give an extra 90 minutes worth of face-to-face care for people. But again, I've got to reiterate, this is one part of a bigger problem. And what underpins all of this now and into the future is what is a sustainable model of distribution or funding.
Well, Ian, the providers all tell me that the money they get is not properly indexed, and therefore the money systematically reduces in value. So the aged care provider is losing money. I mean, there have been external inquiries. I was reading one today, a Stuart Brown industry survey to December last year, and it said, quote, the overall funding arrangements for aged care require considerable urgent, this is Gerard's point, additional funding. This cannot wait until the reforms that are driven by the Royal Commission. Now, Ian, is that urgent funding going to be available to enable aged care providers not to go broke?
Well, look, I'm concerned about things, as Gerard is as well, as I think everybody is, that what the government did was put forward a certain amount of money, but not enough. Now, if we talk about the wages thing, you may have seen on the weekend Josh Frydenberg said, look, we don't get involved in that. That's for the Fair Work Commission. But I do think that the government could actually say, look, we have an urgent problem here. We do need to increase the wages. Now, it is going to be discussed, I think, in November. So that's one of the steps that have to be done. And then if the wage case goes before the Fair Work Commission and the wages are increased, I think they should be increased by probably 25 to 30% minimum.
Yeah.
Because people are being paid $21
$21 an hour. But see, taking that point, Gerard,
closer to 30.
Yeah, taking that point, I mean, from the reports I read, the industry is almost insolvent. I mean, the Aged Care Financial Authority found in June 2019, 43% of providers suffered losses. How do you address that, Gerard?
And that's right. We are seeing so many providers who can barely make ends meet. An example being, following the Quakers Hill fire, the New South Wales government gave 3 years for all facilities in New South Wales to become fire compliant. It took 3 years, and yet 12 facilities in that time could not become fire compliant and had to close. So that's how tight this is. I think the government has missed an opportunity.
Oh, Ian, Ian Henschke, the Stuart Brown Aged Care Financial Performance Survey found that 58% of aged care providers to December last year, 56% in major cities, 60% in inner regional settings, 62% in remote areas was suffering operating losses. Now, how does the budget address these losses? And if it doesn't, what's to happen to aged care?
Well, look, Look, I think, Alan, there's a couple of issues happening here, and I think we've got to recognise that when that money is given to an aged care provider, they should be able to see exactly where it's spent. Now, you may have remembered the case of St Basil's in Melbourne. Now, we've seen that they had some bizarre arrangement where they were able to take millions of dollars out and feed it into the Greek Orthodox Church. Now, that's an example where we don't know where the money's going.
But Ian, hang on. Ian, I don't think we should be having a shot at providers here. Look, I've read two reports today. One said that the industry can't survive. These are objective reports. There's an average loss of $18.67 per resident per day. Now, Gerard, Mike Callaghan, the former chairman of the Aged Care Financing Authority, identified to the Royal Commission, quote, inadequate indexation as a major driver of the declining financial performance of the sector. Now, Gerard, are these things being addressed? I feel they're not. And I'm worried whether some of these people go down the drain, who's going to provide for the aged people then?
Look, you're absolutely right, Alan. They are not being addressed. We're seeing people in aged care who are suffering from dementia, but we're also seeing people in aged care suffering from depression every day. And instead of being able to have a workforce then can support them, psychologists and so forth, it's easier just to give them a tablet and let them, sort of.
And there aren't enough staff.
And come back the next day.
There aren't enough staff.
And there's not enough staff.
No. See, Ian, the Royal Commission, and we're just taking objective people here, said, quote, there's a yawning and unsustainable gap between care revenue and care costs. That being the case...
I take your point there, Alan, because when we've compared Australia to the rest of the world, we spend about half what the rest of the world does on aged care, and yet we have one of the highest levels of institutional care in the world. So I think there is a big problem there, and it's going to be a problem that I was hoping would be addressed by the Royal Commission. I was also hoping that perhaps the Labor Party, when it gave its response to the budget, could have gone into some detail about how they would fix the problem, because this is beyond political parties. We have to fix it as a nation.
It is. You're dead right. Just a quick one before we get Gerard. The Royal Commission, these are your people, found 57.6% of residents are in homes with staffing that would rate only 1 or 2 stars. Now, this is not reflecting the staff or the provider. There simply isn't enough money to properly pay staff, to recruit staff, and to keep the whole show viable.
That's correct. And can I just put a description? This is such a sad description. So you could have on an afternoon or a night shift, one person looking after 30, 40, 50 people. That people want to go to the bathroom and so forth. That's just not going to be achieved. But what is really sad is our members become like family friends with these people, and they have got to leave them, and sometimes these people die by themselves. Absolutely. And this isn't uncommon because there is not enough people there to be able to support. It's just an outrage.
It is. Look, we've run out of time. The problem here is you can't get a debate on these things. That's why I'm speaking to both of you people tonight. We'll have to have a go at it again because it is a major, major issue. And our relatives and friends and parents of people watching us here tonight may one day be the victims of a system which currently is dysfunctional. Ian Henschke, thank you for your time. And Gerard, thank you for your time. Ian Henschke.
Thank you, Alan, for doing the topic.
Gerard Hayes. That's an issue, isn't it? Aged care. Give us a call if you really want to say anything about it. It's 0414 000 848. It's a terrible crisis that we're facing.